Good day, everyone, and welcome to another conversation here at Tarot Mundi. Joining us is Hans as he explains about reading and the projection of the mind. Hi, Hans.
Hi Mary. Hello everyone. Our discussion is about tarot and tarot reading and the protection of the mind. This topic is more common for those who are taking psychology. The protection of the mind I'm stating here is related to the nature of the mind that it tends to have this form of attack thinking. So when the mind projects or is in a state of attack thinking, it sees the world as something very aggressive, very offensive, maybe an enemy. And so the mind, in order to protect itself from its own activity, it tends to defend itself. So if anyone is trying to ask for a reading, the person who is not in a stable um, thinking or thinks the world as an enemy or something dangerous or offensive would ask for a reading to find a solution how to defend itself. So when the person is trying to defend herself or himself, the person actually is doing another form of projection. The enemy and the protector is itself the mind. It creates a form of a scenario
My last question would be
or an
this:
event.
Is
It seems
tarot
there
reading
are different
something that anybody
each
could know?
person's fighting, but actually it's only in the mind. In this case, if the reader or the one who is reading card, for example, is a person who is quite unstable in his mind, I'm not implying somebody who's a mental patient or somebody who has a mental disorder or insane, but somebody who's unable to still the mind. Reading is not really about taking too many ideas, too many concepts, too many strategies, maybe solutions, but it's more like you are going beyond. It's looking at the reality of the event. It's just like if you are watching a movie or a show, maybe we call this a theater. The reality is that these people, they're not enemies. They are simply players. They're simply people who would like to, they're participating in a show. But if you're thinking of a show or a movie, it appears that they're fighting against each other. But in reality, they're not. They're just, artists. They're just playing their games or roles. So this is just like a reading card. So if you, for example, this card is the Ace of Wands. A reader may interpret it in a certain way, while in fact, knowing the origin of the card doesn't have actually a set of meaning. It's just like somebody just imputed a meaning or gave a meaning to this card. The card has no meaning. Because in reality, this card has no meaning. We simply created a meaning. Now, behind this make-believe reality, there is another reality. The card reader must look behind this make-believe reality and towards this original reality. So in the end, card reading it's more like a spiritual exercise, more like a journey. So this Ace of Wands may mean a different thing according to the different reader. But this is actually a card idealism. There is only one reality, and that reality, you may understand this reality maybe after death, or maybe through spiritual realization. So the reality of idealism is that there is only one reality. And this one reality is sometimes attributed as God, or supreme truth, or the absolute truth. We call this as a transcendental knowledge or transcendental science. That is the original reality. So when somebody reads a card or is reading, does a reading for you, it's not about the superficial reality, it's about what is behind that reality. So if you keep on returning to the person just to gain more and more ideas, card reading is not about more and more ideas, more and more accumulation of wealth, maybe more and more friends, more and more power. It has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with having less and less. Less obsession with power, less obsession with wealth, less obsession with influence, less concern about death. Card reading is meant to help you discover your true self, not to forget about yourself. So if somebody asks for a card reading and they'll ask you how to make more money, then it's either the reader or somebody who's asking for a reading doesn't understand what is card reading, tarot reading is all about. So again, it's not about more and more. It's not about the projection of the mind. It is more moving towards the understanding of the self. More about the reality, not about the illusions of life. Not more about temporary things. It's less about temporary things and more permanent things. So thank you. Any question? Would like to?
I'd like to ask, can anyone understand the symbols that are imprinted in the cards? Or is it that only a few individuals are born with the predisposition to understand symbolism? Can you please clarify?
Well, one obvious answer is by comparison is it possible for one to, when he reads a book, because this is just like reading a book, for a person to understand the book he's reading, well, he or she is reading, well, that's very possible, because I don't know if it's impossible not to understand a book that you're reading. It means that anyone can understand the symbolisms and the true meaning of the cards. Again, the meaning was created to help understand the individual, but it appears to have ended as you are reading not to understand. So reading means to understand the self better, not about how many houses you have purchased, how many cars you have, how many bank accounts that you have, maybe how many wives you have. No, it's not about that. Reading card is just like reading a Bible. It's like joining a religious organization, but not the, the constricted thinking. So it means that when you read a card, or ask someone to read for you, it's just like reading a verse from the Bible, any scripture. It tells you how to understand yourself better and to separate yourself from this temporary and illusory things, and moving towards the permanent and the reality of what you're like.
Another question would be, how accurate can cards show the projection of the mind?
Well, how do we know that the mind is projecting? There is a classical, this is a common idea that when the mind projects, it can sense that the environment or other person is attacking the individual. The moment you think that somebody is attacking you, somebody is, planning to harm you or anything like that, the mind is projecting. So when the mind is projecting, playing games, then immediately, since there is no other player, the mind will play to another player, and you're going to defend yourself when in fact you're not being attacked, and there's no need to defend. That's how the mind projects itself. So that's why, in psychological terms, when you do the psychometric test, the images, it has no value. Just like the cards, they have no value. The mind is creating values. So it's either you interpret it as a form of attack and defense, or you see it in a different manner. More about yourself. Did I answer your question?
My last question would be this: is tarot reading something that anybody could know?
Yes, exactly. Anyone can do a tarot reading. That's why I encourage everyone to have her own card and read for herself, because actually the card is meant for the individual, not for another person. When you do a reading, it's for you, not for another person. It's more like using a mirror and you want to, beautify yourself. You need these cards. They're just like, they, they are tools for you to understand how your mind works. I encourage everyone to have his or her own card and try to read. There is no meaning to the cards. Take a look at this. This card is a Ace of Swords. They're just lines and colors. The mind creates an interpretation. The interpretation is not in the card, it's in your mind. The more you understand your mind, the deeper you understand your mind, the more you understand the card. It's just how the mind interprets the figures, the colors, the action. Just like that. So, okay, thank you. And see you next time. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Hans. Bye-bye.